So without further ado, Vicki R.
I'm Vicki and I'm alcoholic. Hey. I feel like I just did this because I just spoke a couple of weeks ago, but here it goes again. I'm Vicki and alcoholic. I was born in Montana and I was raised in Mississippi. So I was born in the north and then raised in the south. And it's funny because when I think about telling my story, all I can think of is not fitting in. I mean, it's just such a giant part of the story. And it seems like last time it came up more than the times before, and it's just been on my mind, you know. How sad it is that you feel like, from as far as I can remember, like, I don't know, when you start remembering kindergarten or something, I don't know, that you don't fit in. And I think, damn, what an odd thing to think. And and then you spend your whole life trying to fit in, kind of, and you try to achieve, you try to do so many things, and it absolutely never works. And coming here, I learned about that and learned that that's part of my disease, is alcoholic and such. But it's a gigantic part for me. It's just gigantic. It still mesmerizes me today as I stand here, 26 years sober. I still fucking feel it. So it's just something. Anyway, let's stick to the story for a second. I just had to get that off my chest. My parents, I have two brothers, both one extremely mentally ill and one partially mentally ill, and then you have me. And our parents divorced when I was about 6 years old, and my mother. The other thing with that situation is, I think that dad did come to visit maybe a time or two in the very beginning, and I never saw him again until I was high school, 17 years old, and a whole other story of how I found him. But anyway, we'll get to that when I'm in high school. And a stepfather came in the picture pretty quick, 8-9 months or something like that. A good guy, not necessarily a nice guy, a good guy, and pretty much took on 3 children with no adoption or anything else, and raised me, supported me and my brothers, and took good care of my mother. He was a military man, and he has been a thorn in my side my entire life, and was last week. You know what I mean? He's just a weird bird. But anyway, I will always be grateful that what he did, he considered me his child, and that's taken on a lot for a person, and I'll always be grateful for that. But anyway, my parents met in Las Vegas. The divorce happened there, and shortly after that, my dad was stationed in Mississippi. And what took place most of the young years was he would be stationed overseas. So when Dad left, the party was on. The house relaxed, everybody chilled, and we had fun. It was loose, and I loved to socialize and play. I was always rounding up kids in the neighborhood, putting on shows. I loved to make kitchens in the backyard with leaves and berries and mud. Constant movement, constant entertaining of some sort for myself. And when Dad came home, everything got strict. And there was no talking at the dinner table. And not that he whipped us and beat us or anything, but it was just this weird quietness. And there still is. It's so weird. I was just there a couple weeks ago. I swear that guy is still just gives you the cold fucking shut down shit, And thank goodness I know better and where that comes from a little bit nowadays, as opposed to a little girl trying to figure it out. But huge influence. Scared me. was always scared of him. Still am. And there's nothing more than I wanted, especially being having that insecurity of not fitting in and not being good enough, is his approval. And the reason I never mentioned mother is because she was flawless. She thought I could do no wrong. She was always there. She was always loving. She was always my cheerleader and, pushing me to do whatever I wanted, And, but I wanted that guy's approval. And I've done a lot of work in just the last 10 years, trying to work on that father. And with Kathleen and stuff. And, it's helped a lot, but just like sobriety is always an ongoing job and an ongoing process, so is that, for me, those fathers. And anyway, so like I said, when Dad was home, it was all strict and weird, and we had a big party when he was gone. And my first drinks, there was no drinking in the house to speak of. I mean, they might have some company on the weekends and have a couple of drinks or something, but I never saw much of it. Apparently, my real father that had left was quite a drinker, and I was too young to really realize what was going on too much. I mean, being in Las Vegas, its access is pretty clear. But I don't recall ever seeing anybody, falling down drunk anywhere or anything like that. And I think I had alcoholism in my both grandfathers on both sides were alcoholics. Nobody admits they're alcoholics. They just say, well, he had a bottle under his bed, he had a bottle in the glove compartment, and maybe there was one somewhere else, So to me, that's probably an alcoholic. But the first drinks I had were about 9th grade, and some beers. I don't know that I fell in love with it right away, right at that minute. And I think I smoked some weeds shortly after that. But, and we had taken a couple of years away from Mississippi, and Dad was stationed in California for about 2 years, those years. And, everybody's hippies out there, everybody's drinking and partying, so I kind of did that. I did that out there, and then when I went back to Mississippi to my straight-laced friends to fit back in, I dropped the cigarettes, I wasn't going to do any pot or anything like that. Well, it wasn't but 5 minutes before I was like inching over to this other crowd in high school. I would still try to kind of hang with the straight-laced folks. I was playing like both sides of the street, sort of. Another complicated job to do, to fit in or something. And I was the girl that drank too much. I mean, right away. And I would steal from the liquor cabinet in the house. And I would just go overboard every time. And seemed like, I don't know if everybody was doing it, but it didn't take me long to be drawn to a crowd that did it. And I had fake IDs immediately, young. First time I ever went to a club, I was completely mesmerized. Loved every drop of it. And every weekend was just a party, from Friday to Sunday. And I would dress up and go in the liquor stores and purchase for everybody and things like that. Stand outside many liquor stores and try to get somebody to buy it for me. So that was, off to kind of a rough start. Smoking pot and, just kind of a screw off already. But I made it through high school, and there was no talk of college in my family whatsoever. It never even occurred to me that you could go or anything like that. And one of my best friends, summer before my senior year, had gotten a scholarship to Parsons in New York, and he came home for the summer, and we found gay bars. And forget it, oh my God, and I lived in gay bars for the next 17 years. I mean, at least 5 nights a week. I just lived there. That's where I was comfortable. That's what I liked. And had a big group, wherever city I was in, wherever I was going. Very social, very organizing of the social calendar, after party girl, blah, blah, blah. And, but I had thought when I went to New York, I ended up going to New York with him. And I did think I wanted to go to college there, but all I cared about the whole time I was there was what drugs I could get, what alcohol I could get, and what I was wearing. I did not care about anything, and getting in Studio 54 maybe, something like that. But I did not care about, I didn't know about college, and no one was there to actually even say, maybe you could get a grant, maybe you could go. But I wanted to go to FIT. I liked the whole fashion thing. And instead I just partied, wasted the time. And what I do is I tried to do geographics during this time. I'm probably like, I went when I was 18. So like 19, 20, I decided, okay, I'm going to go home and go to college. So I'd go back home to Mississippi. I'd do a semester at the junior college in fashion merchandising, drop 2 of the 4 classes, drunk every day showing up. I lived in the nightclubs like crazy. Quaaludes were rampant. And I was just, crazy. I'd fallen in love with my first girl at this point, and that just sent you over the edge when they aren't receptive. You just have to just drink that shit away. It was bad. And and that took a couple of years. So then I'd go back to New York, and I'd work for another year up there, and then I'd come back home and do another semester. And I did that 3 times. So it was just ridiculous. Finally, I realized I needed something, and all I did in New York the whole time was sales clerk in some boutiques. I would try to, one guy said I was his assistant buyer, and they tried to teach me the market thing a little bit and all, and I really wanted to be in that world, but I just couldn't seem to get in there, I tried to apply a few times, and again, just rejected, and just always reiterating, not feeling not good enough and such and such. And so I decided to go to beauty school. And beauty school is perfect because my mother's a hairdresser, and I love all the gays in hairdressing, and you can party as much as you want, and I thought it was just perfect. It's kind of like fashion. So I went to school, and I excelled pretty good at that right away, and dove into it, and did some hair shows and contests and different things, and had a great time with that. And but boy, can you drink. You can drink every day. And mostly it was in the clubs. Me and I had a partner for about 12 years, and she was finishing some semesters in New Orleans at college, and I'd go back and forth from Dallas to New Orleans all the time and bring a big group of hairdressers with me, and we'd just go fucking crazy for, the weekend, and, stay out all night and such, and I was just bad. But, it's just where I was comfortable and what I liked. I didn't even know there was anything else really, because I had, started those gay bars probably at about 16, 17, and I never left them. I just never left them. And, I always maintained a job and a home and a car. So I figured I had it going on. Absolute no clue that I was anywhere near an alcoholic at all. It did not come, they talk about the denial, and truly it never crossed my mind, because as long as you have a car and a home and such a job, you could not be an alcoholic as far as I knew. I had never known anyone that was an alcoholic, and one of my friends in 6th grade's dad went to AA. It's the only time I'd ever heard of it. Didn't know anything about it really, or alcoholism or anything about it. And of course, I have to always move up the ladder in careers to fulfill that insatiable need I have for approval and for seeking praise or whatever I'm seeking. So I wanted to come join this famous hair company back in the day, Tony and Guy, that had come to America from London, real edgy, real cool when they first got here, hard to get a job there. I bugged the crap out of them, for a couple of months, calling every day practically, and they finally let me come for an interview, got hired, moved out. There's another geographic. I'm going to go out there and, and I did well with them. I stayed with them 12 years, and I moved up the ladder and was one of their teachers and managers, and, they kind of say that we all traveled back then we traveled in groups. The whole Tony and Guy clan was like a little cult. So we were all clubbing around and all in Cedar Springs or wherever we were, all in this group. We were all dressed to kill, and it was a super fun time. And I just drank my ass off and drugged and anything I could get. But I maintained the job. Always showed up to work, drunk as shit the next day, and would always say, I'm not going to do it again. The conversation every day, not going today. But by 5 o'clock or whenever I got off, I was inching to the liquor store. I would always buy plenty on Friday night, Saturday night to tide me over that Sunday. 3 or 4 fifths, and I'd keep them hidden in the closet. I was a total hoarder with alcohol, total liar with alcohol. Was always trying to sneak drinks from those girlfriends. They always wanted to try to count and look and keep score. And I was constantly going in the kitchen and downing shit that I didn't even drink, that somebody just brought over, scotch or some weird shit that didn't matter. And it took me a good while, and drank by myself. Then I'd break up with the girlfriend because she was trying to try to say something about alcoholism or take me to her psychiatrist appointment, and they were going to talk about alcoholism. And I was like, what the fuck? Completely like, you are totally, it's her. But I remember nothing to do with me. And it did not even plant a seed at that time. And so now I'm like 35 or 34 or something like that. And just the fact that I maintained I ended up buying a home and all sorts of things. And and being in that industry and around those people and surrounding myself with the special people that did drink so much, I still really did not think. Now, somewhere around 34, I thought, I'm not sure I could stop. I'm not sure I could really stop. I tried going to the Cathedral of Hope and praying, and, I tried different things, but I literally never went 24 hours in the 17 years I drank. Not one 24-hour period without something in my system, whether it was a drug or pot or any kind or alcohol. Not one 24-hour period, and I was freaking clueless still. And what happened was a guy that I had partied really hard with, I ran into him on the street in Deep Ellum, and he looked really good. He looked clear. His eyes were shiny and bright and beautiful. And I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, I'm sober. And I was like, cool. God is funny because he put him in my life, in my path again. About a month later, I ran into him on Cedar Springs. And I was like, damn, you look good. And same thing. But it planted the little seed that needed to be planted at the time. And like I said, I had no clue about what alcoholism was. Anything about it. So I called that guy finally one day when I realized, two of my friends had also said, two of my dearest, closest people that I know truly love me, had said, you've changed when you drink. You've changed. Now, nobody said, you're a total asshole or you're, they didn't describe it in any way that was necessarily bad, but just that you've changed. And I'm sure what they were referring to was the fucking obsession with it. I could not get enough ever. I just couldn't. After hours, I'd want it at home. When I got home, I just would not stop until I fell out. Every night, whether it was by myself, with the friends, in the clubs, did not matter. I just could not stop at all once I started. And I didn't stop a day, let alone once I started the actual drink. I would sober up just enough to do my work, to get the money to furnish the drink. And that was just it, pretty much. And a little ego food from having a job and such. It was just enough to satisfy me. And I forgot where I was. The guy sobered up. Okay, I called him. And I said, you know what? I think I might need to go to one of those meetings with you. And he said, I don't think you're an alcoholic. And I was like, cool. And I drank again for another 6 months or so. And I'm not sure why this day. Nothing was really special about this day. I did a lot of camping. I'd take the hairdressers on these big camp trips, and we'd just be wasted the whole time. I'd always be the one that stayed out by the campfire all night on the Chase Lounge, passed out. I would drink. Because everybody was done drinking and going to bed, I was not done. I was not done. I was never done. So I would just stay out there and having a blast. And I had one of those trips, and, you know, I'd done my usual, you know, drunk a skunk and such and such. I think I kissed some other girl, too, when I had a girlfriend or some shit like that, too. But whatever, a couple days later was the day that I thought, I am an alcoholic. Now I'm lying on that. Back up. When I first made those phone calls to that guy, it crossed my mind, I think I can't really stop. You know, I didn't have that thought anymore that I can stop this if I really wanted to, that I had had for all those years. I realized I really could not stop. And one day I was probably going to have to go to those meetings. And then I call him, that takes place. So then I made the call to him, I really want to go. And he's like, okay, I'll take you tomorrow. And that night was traumatic. You know, I knew I was giving up. I knew if I was giving up something that I just couldn't bear the idea of living without. Couldn't imagine how life would be, that it was all done, completely done. And just couldn't imagine. And I drank the rest of the vodka in the house, the beers, that's what I loved, vodka and beers. Tons of vodka with beer chasers. And the weed, and dumped the rest out in the alley and stuff. And I was crying all night and calling like 2 people to say, I'm doing it. And they were like, we're proud. And bringing me cigarettes, but I wouldn't let them come in the house because I was crying so hard. I was like, just give them to me through the door. I'm just going to chain smoke and drink my last drinks. And like I had this big, deal about it. Anyway, I went the next day. And my best friend at Tony and Guy was watching me walk down that door by Neiman's. And I remember walking down that sidewalk crying, thinking I'm fixing to go to a damn meeting. And he's back there crying, watching me walk. My main party buddy and best friend still to this day, or dear friend. And I went. And what I heard, I started crying. Whenever anybody shared, I cried the whole time. They all sounded sad. They all sounded like, ah. And they were talking about such real shit that you'd never really talk about, And I just remember crying a lot those first couple of days. But it seemed okay. And the deal was, I went a day without drinking. I went 24 hours. First time ever. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, I'm going again tomorrow. And I was real nervous. This is the part they don't warn you about, is how uncomfortable you're about to feel. Someone needs to tell people that ahead of time. Just set you up because you're about to feel so damn uncomfortable you can't even name it. You're just so out of sorts and not in a comfortable place. You are, and it's overwhelming in your head. So I can see where people would just go run to drink to escape that, all that real feeling and all that, and nervousness and scared of everybody and shy and fucking feels like, you definitely don't fit in, and all the strangers and the words, and I mean, just, oh my God, I just think it's crazy overwhelming at first. But I just kept going. And I really didn't want to go home after those meetings. And so I went to the coffee shop every night. Could not go home. Did not want to go home. If nobody was going to the coffee shop, I'd just go over there and sit. It's horrible. I just couldn't wait to see who was going to show up. Is anybody going to say hi? I ended up getting a sponsor off of the list, a stranger, the second or third day I went. And I just picked the first woman on there and just called her, met her. She was my sponsor. Because that's what you're supposed to do. And if I was going to do this, I decided right off the bat I was going to do it 100%. I was not going to fuck around with this. I was going to do exactly what she said. And she told me to go meet strangers. And I just thought, oh my God. That was the most dreadful thing in the world to me. It is when you tell somebody to go do that. Go introduce yourself to a stranger and see if they want to have coffee. Yeah, fuck. But I did. That's the big point. I did. because she asked me if I was willing to go to any length. And I got it immediately that you couldn't skirt this. You couldn't have measures, that you did have to do every single thing. And then if you were lucky enough to get the miracle, you would probably stay sober. But it was not a guaranteed thing. And the only way that any of these people in here were sharing and talking about the ones that had made it is they did all this stuff. So I was very particular about writing every night, praying every night, reading the book every night, meeting every day, talking to another alcoholic every day. I was very particular about it. I did not skip that shit for years. And, but I remember just the humiliation of going and meeting strangers. And I told y'all this story last week, but I'm gonna tell you again. One time over at Java Jones, I went and invited myself to sit down with some chick that I'd seen in the meetings. And come to find out, she was on one of those personal dates that you would get out of the back of the little publication paper. She was on a first date with some girl that, had posted an ad, like we didn't have the computer back then. And invited myself and just sat down with them. It was just shit. We had women's meetings back then also, and so that portion of the story kind of covers step one about, admitted I was an alcoholic. It finally came to me, and I was willing to admit it and willing to go to any length. And even though my life looked manageable on the outside, because I did have home and such, I was so torn up on the inside, so full of shame. That is the word that I was just living in. I had made a prison for myself of shame. And I couldn't answer the phone, I couldn't drive, I couldn't hang out with certain people. I was so limited to make sure that I could drink as much as I needed on a daily basis. And then so much shame around it, embarrassment, shame, that I could not stop. Even alone with myself, I just felt shame. You are bad. That's what I thought to myself. You are bad. I knew you were no good. You've been no good since you were fucking born. And look at you. You are no good. And not good enough and everything else. And how did I get off on that tangent? God damn. See, that kind of slips out because that conversation still goes on sometimes. So sad. So sad after all these years I still have to fuck with that. But I know better now. I mean, at least I know intellectually that's not accurate, even if the conversation gets to flow through for 1 second. You know what I mean? But the unmanageable part. So all the unmanageable was all inside. And it was all, hidden. I acted like it was fine on the outside. I always showed up fine and this and that and got the plan, got the, outfit, got the whatever. And just torn up inside and so insecure. And we had a women's meeting back then over at Lambda, and it was a big one. I mean, it was like 40 women. I was scared of all of them. Just every lesbian intimidated the shit out of me. I have always hung with the boys. The boys are my people. And scared of all of them. And but they all talked about books they'd read in there. All the girls were talking about books, spiritual books. And that would be the bestseller or Oprah Winfrey or whoever. Anybody was putting out, Eckhart Tolle, I mean, whoever, And when it comes to a power greater than myself, I had prayed 1,000,000 times and went to church and everything else, grew up in church. And that had never stopped me from 1 minute of drinking. So when the people were saying that God had helped them, I didn't quite think, I don't know if he's going to work for me. But again, it didn't take me long to realize these people had some sort of connection with some higher power or a God. And so I read all the books I could get for that first year or so. I mean, devoured, literally seeking, desperately seeking. That's a nice gift of desperation when you do make the decision to come here. And somehow I formed a God, through Marianne Williamson and a combination of all of them. Took little bits and plus my Christian upbringing and formed some sort of power higher than me. And when I got the 30-day chip, I will never forget that day. I thought, oh my God, this shit fucking works. 30 days. I mean, I'd never had 24 hours in 17 years. Do you know how long that is? Every day. How obsessive that is every day. Geez, I mean, I was not a binge drinker. I was a daily drinker, you know. And I couldn't believe that I had went a whole month. And that's when I dove into all the spiritual books and formed this relationship with God. And, you know, I had been praying to that God that she told me to say that prayer every morning. God, please keep me sober, and thank you for keeping me sober at nighttime. And I said that, and without really believing that that was going to do anything in the beginning. But she told me to say it, so I said it. Just said it. And of course, after 30 days of staying sober, I'm like, oh my God, maybe this shit works, you know. It looks like, you know. And now, through, I mean, not necessarily even now, within some years, I had a definite feeling. I did not have a burning bush sort of situation or anything, but I had this feeling there was something guiding me. That's the best way I can describe it. There is a poster over at Lambda, the next right thing. I lived by that. Because my mind always wants to choose the shitty thing. It always wants to choose the lesser route. It always wants to choose the shortcut. It always wants to choose the negative. And a lot of times in sobriety, especially those first few years, I didn't know what the fuck to do. Some moments. I didn't even know. I was just frazzled, fizzled. If life happened or, you know, shit happened, things didn't even have to happen. I could just be sitting still by myself and everything was fine. And then my head would start. And I wouldn't know what the fuck to do. And so I had this next right thing. And deep inside me, I know the right and the wrong thing to do. You know, I'm capable of being honest enough and such that I can distinguish between those two things. Now, what I choose is a different story. But I learned as I kept reading that, to do the next right thing. And they talk about being so brutally honest in here that that was kind of part of it, is the next right thing would be not to lie or exaggerate or whatever. And, you know, I just started practicing that stuff. Just practicing. And whenever things got difficult or weird or whatever. And I remember my first meeting I ever chaired over at Lambda, my topic was, how do you know God's will? Because I didn't quite get it at first. How the fuck do you know? And you do. There is a gut feeling that I have got that I refuse to listen to sometimes, or do listen to. And I think that is that inner guidance that's by God directing me somewhere or another. It's like I kind of know which way I should go, but do I want to go that way? Then it comes into my will. So, kind of cool. You know, in big situations, sometimes I can't listen to that. You know, I just can't. Like when it's with a new relationship and I know it's bad right off the bat. I'm so desperate to be liked by anybody and loved by somebody that I will put up with a lot of fucking shit to keep your ass there. And, you know, that's another story. Okay. I can't really see these steps and I can't remember for some reason. Okay, you know, kind of like in the promises, how, you know, you intuitively know how to handle things. That's exactly what happened. You know, when the hot water tank broke, the car broke down, I didn't flip the fuck out and go drink or anything. I would think, possibly call a sponsor. And the other thing that benefited from me introducing myself to all those strangers back in the very beginning was I established a support group. The most valuable thing in the entire world. Totally saved my life millions of times and still does today. Those people, we got sober together, we grew together, we cried together, we were uncomfortable together, we were insecure together. We, you know, volunteered together, we did everything. And oh my God, I could not have made it without them. So it's so interesting how I'm so scared and shy and intimidated by you, but yet I need you so bad. You know what I mean? To stay sober. So it's like, and that's where that humbleness comes in, that humility, that you can get over that hump of pretending like you're fine and admitting how much you need another person and their shoulder to cry on or their ear just to listen for the 50th fucking time for the same damn story. That's the kind of stuff that is so valuable. It's just so valuable in here. Where am I at? I keep getting lost, sorry. The fourth step. Now, I also could tell early on you could not bullshit this or it wasn't going to work. It just seemed to me that you would absolutely throw away all these months you've been sober. You'd throw away everything if you did not get 100% brutally honest. So I did tell her every embarrassing nightmare fucking story. Even shit you probably didn't even need to tell her. I told her. And it cleared my conscience. So at least I didn't have that dirty house waiting me down. It's bad enough with the shit even cleaned, I thought, you know what I mean? But so I do recommend that, totally. And then the other thing that a couple of old timers had recommended I do in the beginning those few years was get honest when I shared in here. Instead of coming in and being like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm in the fourth step, it's all good. I came in here and talked about real shit, like, to me, two of the most embarrassing, one of them was, I was scared of all the lesbians. But you don't really want lesbians to know you're scared of them because then they're going to think you're a dumbass. So you kind of act like you're not scared of them, but you're fucking petrified. It's a weird situation to be in, and you're lesbian. And so it was a horrible situation to be in, but, and I wanted them to like me and stuff and want to hang out and things. And so I had to admit to all the lesbians in a share that I was scared of all of them. Oh my God, that was like the most mortifying thing to do. Now it sounds so damn silly. But at the time it was like, oh my God, admit that shit in public, in front of them, the ones you're scared of. But hey, it takes the power out of the shit fast. And I believe my sponsors always, and I've always insisted on my sponsees going in and sharing the shit, the real shit. The crying, the emotional, the feeling left out, the fucking lonely, the broken heart. Well, the shit that you're embarrassed to share is what you need to be sharing, I think. And what happens is it lessens the load you're carrying 50%, at least, as soon as you leave the room after you share from your heart. And people can tell when you're sharing from that deep place in your heart. You're genuine. It's not like anybody's going to make fun or anything like that. And that's what it takes, is to get real, because there's people in here that have shit on their mind that they need to share, but they're too scared. They're too scared. They're too uncomfortable. They're too petrified to do it. So they need to see examples of people sharing in here for real, the embarrassing, wicked shit, to know that it's okay and it's safe to do it, And so I feel like, I don't know, I was scared not to do that no matter how much it embarrassed me. I was afraid I'd drink. Everything that I did that was painful, introducing those people, sharing your intimate things and such, I always thought I would drink if I didn't, because they all say you could, and I wasn't willing to take the risk. And again, that kind of flows back into that being humble enough. To me, the humbleness means being able to admit exactly where you are. And that means exactly. Insecure, don't fit in, ugly, lonely, whatever our big lists are. Most of us seem to think similar, which I love. So I know that you can relate to what I'm saying here. You know what I mean? But I think that, but the fourth step, and I listed every, sex inventory, every fucking person I could think of, the no names and stuff, and the fears. I was scared of 75, Highway 75. Never been on it. Lived here for like 5 years. Never been on it. Petrified. Mostly because I was drunk all the time. But still, I was just petrified. I was scared of so many weird things that I don't even think of now. But I mean, I was just in fear of everything, walking around tiptoey, in life. Okay, fifth, totally shared with the sponsor. I can't see this for some reason. Defects character. I didn't have any. That's what I thought, because I was like, I'm not really a big liar except about alcohol, and not a big thief unless it's liquor. It wasn't like, so I really didn't think, but, oh my God, so self-centered. Just so self-centered to the extreme, because I couldn't bear life without that crutch of alcohol. So I had, and it took 100% of my thinking and my whole world to make sure I could get enough of it. So the self-centeredness was above and beyond. And, I feel like I've turned a lot of that over to God, and have had God remove a lot of defects of character. But they are still there in other areas. Still there in other areas. So, and I mean, I don't know if they're always going to be there, probably to a certain extent, but at least I have tools, know what to do, and try not to engage in them. Because what happens, I used to be a big old gossip too. I mean, that was what me and the boys did. We talked about everybody and their outfits, and their shoes, and their haircut, and their shit, cars, whatever. I mean, that was my pastime entertainment. Just 24 hours a day we did that, in the salon, in the bars, wherever. And I remember thinking that I did not want to do that anymore. And that was one of the character defects that I swear God has removed that. And that was a pastime hobby, daily, hourly. So, I mean, and what happens, if I engage in some of those character defects that were removed, that I try not to engage in, I get this little stab in my gut. And it's a little warning that's saying, you're fucking going there. And it doesn't feel good. So I have to back up. Just immediately start just backing up from that. And sometimes I want to engage in it, but I have to, just literally pull myself back, literally. And should have lost my train of thought again. The defects. I don't know. You must not need to hear that, whatever that was. So, what's the amends? The amends, I didn't have any either, you know what I mean? So if you haven't stole from anybody or, really lied to them, what. The thing is, the biggest thing was I'm 100% not present, no matter where I am. I was not present at all. At work, home, relationships, I was not present unless you had a big old cocktail in front of me. That's what I was present to and zeroed right in on. And that was it. There was nothing else really that could take up any mind space. I was too focused on it. It was just 100% of my life. So, and it's really sad. I try to explain to people that are thinking about getting sober that I believe there's a part of me that was not able to grow, bloom. God gives us all special gifts that only we have, and that those really couldn't flourish. I couldn't really show those, use them, or grow them, or expand them, or anything like that, because alcohol keeps everything just down. It just keeps everything just down. And so you kind of rip people off that are in your life. Your family's getting ripped off from not a genuine person. Your friends, business, such, is all basically just getting like the short end of the stick of you. They're not getting the full benefit of you as a person. And once you get sober, that a different person comes, and a true shift in thinking takes place. Now, I don't know exactly, just like the burning bush thing, I don't know exactly when that takes place, but at some point there was a shift in the way I thought. Thank God. Geez, thank God. Sad situation. Okay, every time I forget what I'm saying, I have to go over here and look. Okay, the amends, of course I made them, because there was plenty of people that I had shafted, plenty of girlfriends, parents, employers. I made them all. And, the ones that friendships that I wanted to get back, that I had kind of destroyed through drinking and what have you, my sponsor said, don't go to them, because I wanted them back, you know what I mean? I wanted them back. And she said, no, just write it, you know, don't go to them. And then sometimes there would be that situation where you couldn't really, you would have to wait till you ran across their path and maybe see them like that. It's real interesting how amends work. The main point, I think, is to be willing to make those, and willing not to just say I'm sorry, but admit what you did wrong. Not just like, oh, I'm sorry, I will never do it. You know. No, tell them what a loser you are. Tell them what you did. Tell them exactly how you shafted them and such. And then by making a living amends, you don't engage in that behavior again. You know, that's the best a person can do. That's the best. I used to always be right. Period. I was just right about everything. And I don't mean that. I was not cocky about it. I just had this feel like, I don't know what, perfectionist, fucking wise, I don't know what you're going to call it. But I had this feeling that I knew the right way for things. And I'm really doing it out of help for you. So I can help you do that easier. I can help you or prevent something from happening to you or such and such. And maybe I couldn't admit that I was wrong because of those insecurities and that not being good enough. I would have to admit to you then that I wasn't good enough if I admitted I was wrong. So that just never came up. I just never could. In sobriety, I am wrong all the time, more often than not. And I don't feel so funny about admitting it. That doesn't tie to my self-worth anymore. You know, what feels funny is when I'm wrong and I act like I'm not. And I got that gut thing going on then. You got the little tap on your shoulder and the gut going, you totally owe an amends. You were totally wrong. Nah, 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 nah. And I can't just live with that anymore. I have to go ahead and admit, clean it up, apologize or whatever, and then my stomach calms back down and I'm fine. So it's beneficial to take those inventories and admit. I mean, it really feels so shitty not to now. You walk around feeling all awkward and weird. You know you're bad. Okay, prayer and meditation, you know, I've gone in and out of all sorts of things with that. I've always prayed. And it was funny because I said something funny in my prayer today. And I thought, I got to remember to tell them that tonight, but I can't remember it. But at the very end of the prayer, it was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I said P.S. something. I can't remember what it was. I thought it was kind of cute at the time. But anyway, I'm afraid to not pray because I might drink. That's on the list. That's on the list of those 5 things you got to do almost every day. They say every day. I'm saying almost now because I have so many years, and I think I've got it a little bit now to where I can skip a couple of those here and there. But I did not skip for years. Like I don't even know how many, but I've always taken it pretty serious. But what that did is it gave me a good foundation in the program. You know, I feel like I have a good, solid foundation. I don't feel nervous that even if, you know, my mama died, my wife died, and everybody died, you know, I would have to drink or anything. It doesn't even enter my mind as an option when life gets tough. You know, it just does not. So I think it's so important in the beginning because you're changing the way you think, you're changing the way you live, you're changing everything, really. But I mean, when you think how powerful it is to change the way you think, I mean, fuck, who knew that we could actually do that? You know, I was never aware of that before I got here, or even a roadmap on how to do that it was even possible and such. I mean, but it is, and it does, and that's what happened. And I think, wow. But I'm afraid if you shortchange any of the little steps in there, every little step done thoroughly, you know, every bit of calling strangers, every bit of coffee with strangers, every bit of going to dinner when you don't want to and you're feeling shy, every bit of saying yes when you don't want to do something when somebody asks you, every bit of volunteer work, sponsoring, you know, I'm afraid if you skip any of that, you might fuck it up. I don't know that for sure. But I suspect you could, because that's usually what people said that did go out and had slips. They did. So I've always been too scared to do it, to not do it. I always want to keep, I might go away a little bit, but I always keep a toe in there, toe in here, Meditation, I've never been great at just sitting still. I'm hyper, nervous, and it's always been tough. But I've had some, a little experience with it, for the fun of it. In the beginning, I would try, especially in some of my girl groups, several book clubs I've been in through the years. We've done a lot of meditating at the end of those with a little group, and it was kind of fun and stuff like that. So, and there's tons of guided meditations you can get free to help you calm down if you need them. Didn't say what kind of meditation to do, just said meditation. So me sitting on my patio, I'm a big gardener, so me sitting on my patio just in my garden is my meditation spot. Now, I may not be sitting there all quiet, staring, peaceful. I may be weeding or chain smoking, drinking my coffee or whatever, but that is my form of calmness that I wake up an hour early to do every day. So that's my deal. Sponsoring, I don't think I've had the best luck with it, to tell you the truth. And it's sad because I have always sponsored people since the first time I had the 1 year. I remember being very nervous at the 1 year date. I don't have a sponsee. You got a year, you're supposed to get one. And the sponsor was like, calm down, God will provide. And I was like, oh no, worried I would drink if I didn't get one. Well, God put one in my path, and that was fine. And there's been many that have come through, but none of them stay. And I think, fuck, do I not have much to offer? Do I, whatever. Of course I'm going to fucking analyze the shit out of it. Not to the point of obsession, I'm lazy about it. I don't even want to fucking sponsor sometimes. I don't want to meet them. I don't want to call them. I don't want to deal with it. That's one thing that has not changed is I still am a little bit of a slacker. And as much as I'd like to stand up here and say, oh, I get so whatever from it, it feels good after, but sometimes I don't want to do it. But again, I'm scared not to. So I'm damn going to do it. I am going to show up. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to, make suggestions and such. So, and I've gone to the jail for about 7 years, taken a meeting down there, and, I've tried to plant seeds. I try to plant a seed, say something that might strike you. Bill says in the book that, it's one alcoholic talking to another. Like another person can say the same exact thing to somebody who is a drinking alcoholic, and they can't hear it. Their ears are filled with cotton. They cannot hear it. But the same alcoholic comes up, and we say a couple of the code words, like feeling left out, insecure, scared of everybody, and shit like that. They're like, oh, maybe she does know something. You know what I mean? That's the kind of little tidbits we can plant, the seeds that we can plant, that hopefully will stay there long enough till one day they make that decision that day, that guy they saw with the bright eyes, and they want to make the call. So I'm constantly just trying to plant the seeds wherever, any opportunity. I'm a hairdresser, so I talk to people all day. At first I was a little embarrassed about being an alcoholic, and as much as I think I said this last time, as much as I'd like to be, digging wells in Africa and some glamorous stuff, I'm an alcoholic specialist. That is my specialty. That's what I know. I know how to teach it. I can guide. I can tell you all about it. So that is what the gift that God gave me to share is how to not drink when you're an alcoholic. So that's what I do. Lazy or not, some days. And one lady I know has this sponsor, and then a bunch of people that she sponsors, and then they all have sponsees, and then they have sponsees. So they have these huge meetings every year where they all get together, and there's 75 or something. I never had that. That sounds so fun. Never had it. It's Kathleen. But I make sure not to refuse when anybody does ask or anybody does approach me. I'm always willing to raise my hand, give my number, and the rest is up to God, really. The rest is totally up to God. So there's not much I can do about that. I want to mention my wonderful wife, too, who's someone that I saw in this program. Well, let's go back for a second to that other girl. I married. It wasn't legal then, but I did marry a girl from the program that had 10 years and was a big dog in the program, and it was awful. You know, that's the one I said I was so desperate to be loved, and I knew that relationship was, oh, I'm fast. Shit, I'm so sorry. Okay, I guess you're not going to hear about the relationships. Thank you so much for asking me. I appreciate it. Good.